right, so when we had the survey sent out, I think it was the number 3 issue was about time management and really understanding how to be able to take advantage of doing the Amazing Selling Machine with everything else in your life going on. So I'm very pleased to be able to bring up someone who's actually become a friend of mine. But what's really cool about this is someone I actually, if I didn't have such a crazy year end this year, I actually had scheduled for him to come into my office and spend some time to help our office. So that tells you it's someone that I truly trust and I wanted to have help me with my business personally. This person has helped top 500 companies like Bank of America, works with Rackspace, multiple other companies, works with government organizations, and really helps people go from feeling overwhelmed, and not just people, again, organizations, corporations, but also individuals, go from feeling overwhelmed to astonishing, to absolutely amazing. He tells you he'll help you get between 2 to 4 times the productivity you currently have. And the really cool thing with this is some of you have seen a post on his on Facebook and went rabbit over it because he showed you this really cool, it looked like a mind map, but it was the way he was doing the Amazing Selling Machine. And he actually joined in October. He sold, and he has a business partner he does it with, and they sold their first product in December. So he was going through where most of you are kind of just getting this business model underway. He can relate to you totally, but not only that, he has the skill set, the knowledge, and he's actually a consultant for teaching this to be able to show you how to do it in a way that you'll get far more out of it than you would any other way. So I'd like to bring up my good friend and very smart man, Jerry Kirk.
Thanks, Jason. Glad to be here. All right. Hey, Matt. All right, let's make it happen. Thanks. There's my brothers over there. We were working on our cheer last night. Oh, you see, every good presentation has to have its own sound, right? So my first product, which I'm really excited about, I just got an email from Amazon while I was here an hour ago. Someone bought 2 more of it. Everyone seems to buy it in multiples. I don't know if that's a problem. So I'm selling cacao powder. So last night, the cheer for everything that was awesome became cacao. So if you see something you like to, just kind of like, kapow. Just yell a little cacao. It feels good. So I woke up this morning, and I had this strong feeling inside of me that something today, I didn't know what, was going to change my life forever. And that gave me a ton of energy. And looking back at the days so far, think about what we have. We have mindset, wealth management, ninja tricks on SEO, a lot of amazing stuff here, conversations. I have no idea where it's going to take me, but I know my life has been changing. Have you felt the same thing? Yeah. So I know this is the last talk of the day. Brain's getting a little tired, a little saturated, right? Day 2. What I'm going to show you today is not that complicated, actually. Anyone can do it, really simply. And it's probably the one thing you'll get from these 3 days that can help you tie all of this together in a way that will allow you to actually make it happen. And not just the ASM stuff, but the other stuff going on in your life, whether it's your professional job, at home, your volunteer work, whatever it happens to be, to make all of that stuff happen, to create time for the stuff that really matters in your life, more time. Is that something you'd like to learn about today? I'm not sure. Is that something you really want to learn about today? Okay. All right. All right, let's get serious. I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to give you 1 minute. That's not a lot of time. Take a piece of paper, write down 3 key things that you want to get out of this session. By the end of the session, what are the 3 key things around time management, around getting focus that are most important to you? Okay? 60 seconds, go. Okay. So I want to start by telling you a story about a woman named Jackie, who I met about a year ago when I was working with a large nonprofit. And nonprofits, I've discovered, are probably the most overburdened of any organizations that I've worked with because they wear their heart in their sleeve and they can't say no. Anyway, Jackie, she had set up her own system based on other systems that I'd shown people in the same organization, so she's just kind of just winging it on her own. And so we'd schedule a time to check in and see how she was doing with it and see if I could help her along. And she was getting lots of stuff done. Tons of stuff done, right? And you can see here that she had like a forest of done Post-its, just kind of overgrown. And she didn't really know what to do with them, right? She's kind of like, okay, I got all these done things, you know, do I just get rid of them? Well, how do I get rid of them? So when I work with people, I try to help them start to look at their work a little bit differently. And so I have these 4 standard questions that I give to people just to get started with this idea of kind of reflecting on your work. And so these are the 4 that I gave her. What was satisfying, what was difficult, what was avoided, and what was surprising, just about, you know, the past couple of weeks. You know, and she kind of looked at me first, and he's like, well, I don't, you know, things are okay, and I got, you know, this happened or that happened, and she wasn't really sticking in. So I kind of prodded her a bit more. I invited her to look at her board, right? Look at your board, and what was satisfying about, you know, stuff on there. And that's when something started to happen. She got really quiet. She started getting emotional. She looked at her board, she looked at me, and she said that there wasn't one Post-it that she actually had enjoyed doing. And until that moment, she didn't even know that. It was as if a huge veil had been lifted off her eyes, and now she was seeing her work in a totally different way. She saw that what she was doing was not what she wanted to be doing. And ultimately, it's not good for her organization either if she's doing stuff that she doesn't truly care about, because she's not doing her best work. So we tweaked one thing about her board to try to help her make a change. So we changed her done column to evaluate as stuff came in there. What were the things that were satisfying? What were the things that were, you know, they're okay? And what were the things you just didn't like at all? And you can see after 1 week, there was a huge shift. Part of that shift came because she had this data that she could show her manager, and they could have a real frank conversation about it and try to make some changes. And now she's a much happier person. So there's a lot of things that get in the way of doing what we really want to do, right? We feel overwhelmed. I mean, look at us. Here we are absorbing a ton of information through ASM, through this conference on top of already busy lives, right? I've got a family of 3 kids. You know, I've got consulting, and I've got this now. It's a lot of things to juggle. We've got constant interruptions, right? Whether it's our kids or people at work or emails, Facebook, whatever it happens to be, that kind of pull us away from the stuff that we're trying to manage. And then there's, you know, those urgent demands, right? The things that just keep yelling at us, and often for a lot of us, those are the only things that get done, right? Probably have managers that, or people you know at work that the only way you can get them to do something is to like just run into their office and stand there until they do it. Anyone experience that? So, one more story. This is another manager, and she was way overloaded. Way too much stuff going on. She knew that. She was managing stuff by email, with a calendar, but mostly just in her head, as best as she could. And this might look like scary, but imagine this is a physical representation of what she was trying to juggle in her head. Imagine how hard that was. And so what we did was the first thing is we tried to create some clarity. So you see a lot of colors there. Those represent different areas of focus for her. And she loved colors. She loved different posts. I think she had the most colored Post-its of anyone I ever worked with. And we did that. We created some workflow to kind of see things as they moved across. And we also wanted to understand, for her it was important to see what were the things that were interrupting her, what was getting in her way. So we also tracked the unplanned stuff. So you see in the done column here, we're doing something a little different. Because again, it matters. You set it up for what matters to you. So in her case, we're trying to learn something. We're trying to learn what's getting at her that she didn't intend to do. And then try to make some sense of that, right? Because there were lots of things that she had to do that weren't getting done. Another thing that was important to her was to find more balance in her life. Because she was so overworked, she didn't take lunch. She didn't go home on time very often, which was creating stress at home. Anyone relate to that? Right? Lots of us. So part of this is trying to integrate new habits. And we don't often know what the right answer is going to be. So it's a discovery thing. So here at the bottom of her design, we're tracking daily habits for improvement. And we picked 3. One was going for lunch. One was going home on time. And the other one here, because she's new, was to get all her work on the board. That was really important, just to start seeing things really for the first time. And through that, we could try to discover the patterns for success as we run different experiments. The world today is much, much faster than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And the tools that we're trying to use simply can't keep up. To-do lists, email, calendars, whatever you're using, most of them, at best, help you to get stuff done. They don't help you to get the right stuff done. And as you're discovering now with ASM and all the things you're doing, it's not that you don't have options, it's that you're trying to figure out the right options as quickly as possible, right? We live in a knowledge economy. And because we live in a knowledge economy, learning is the bottleneck. That's why we're here. That's why we bought ASM, right? Imagine trying to figure all this out on our own. We'd never get there, you know? At best, we get maybe a quarter of it done in 10 times the amount of time. So what if we could have a system that could help us learn faster, right? Learn what the right things are in the right way, in the right balance. That would be huge. So as I said, with the tools we have today, there's too much overhead, right? If you have a to-do list and so on, you got to plan, you got to replan, you got to adjust the plan. By that point, you've given up on the plan. Anyone enjoy tools that help manage your work, right? Where's the fun in that? No wonder we don't plan stuff. No wonder we don't manage our work. It's a chore. What if we could turn that into something that's fun, something that you look forward to doing? Is that an oxymoron with planning? I don't think it has to be. And lastly, as I said, we need something that helps us learn, not just do. Doing is half the battle. If you're super efficient and super productive, but you're doing the wrong stuff, it doesn't matter. That's like the worst form of waste, right? You're just doing the wrong stuff faster. Congratulations. How's that feel? So what we need really is like a GPS for our life, for our work, something that gives us real-time information, right, in the moment, so that we can make the best decision each and every time, right? We have this sort of stuff for things like traffic. Why don't we have that for our work? Why don't we have that for our life? Some things that are far more complicated. So what we're going to do today is to start helping you see things way more clearly than you've ever seen before in your life. I'm going to introduce you to something called personal Kanban or small team Kanban, which was first introduced to me by a couple friends of mine, Jim Benson and Tony-Ann DeMaria Barry, which changed my life. And I hope today will help change yours. So every board tells a story. We've heard the word story mentioned a lot today, right? Stories are powerful. A board reflects back to you a lot about who you are and what's important to you, what matters. This is an example of a board that is in my home or was in my home a few years ago. Ours is a lot more different now, which is a good thing. And back then, we have a young family, twins, and an older daughter, and man, just doing anything outside of the home seemed like a miracle. So we started to visualize the different areas of our life, like community and friends and so on, to track, are we actually investing time in those things. And we could use this very simple board to visually see that at a glance, right? And have stuff in our done column that we could reflect on at the end of the week. Another example, so this person's a counselor. Again, overwhelmed. She meets with dozens of students who are dealing with lots of different situations. A lot of parts to her world, right? She's got many different steps and things to remember all of those steps. So in her situation, we designed a system that had reminders at the top of each of her flows. So we're prepare, assess, treatment, close. Whereas before, she would never finish the close thing, because that's kind of like the administrative stuff that wasn't as important, and there was always all these other kids. But as soon as we set this up, she went from feeling like downtrodden to she's like, ah! She's like one of these like super perky people. And she just dove right in, because she could see what she needed to do. It's like the barrier's out of her way. And that was a huge release for her. As Jason mentioned, this is the now famous photo on Facebook. So this is a photo of my current board for managing ASM stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of detail to that. You don't want to start with that. I didn't start with that. All right, I'm going to show you something today that's a lot simpler that you can use immediately and get really good results. But I'll talk about this a bit more later. OK, so I'm a big believer in locking in the learning. So I've thrown a lot of stuff at you already so far. What I want you to do is turn to someone beside you. And again, you've only got a minute. What are the 3 key points you've heard so far you think are the most important to remember, to write down? OK? I'll give you a minute. OK. All right. I saw a little Mayday help over there. Someone's saying that we're lost. What's that about? Yeah, I'm going to show you the framework next, so thanks for the lead-in. OK, so this is all leading up to how you can do this yourself, all right? Where to start? Is that what you're looking for? OK. So I've done this a lot with hundreds of people, with dozens of teams. And I've kind of boiled down what I find are kind of the 5 key steps to making this method really work for you to get started, OK? And I'm actually going to use a little Kanban for the rest of the session here to model that behavior. OK, so the first thing is this workflow works for the majority of people. It's actually the one I started with in my ASM project, something really simple. And it's basically this. On the left-hand side, the options, the things that you may do, possibilities, right? Things you're planning to potentially do. Today, the things that you're only going to do today so that you're not constantly reviewing all of your options all the time. Get some focus. What are the things you want to do today? This is all available in a handout, by the way, so don't feel like you have to scribble everything down. And then doing is really important. Those are all the things that you've already invested time in. It's not that you're doing it in the moment, but that you've already done something on it, because our brain craves closure. And as soon as you put time into it, even if you're focused on this thing, it's still remembering that thing over there. So we want to limit the amount of things in doing, and I'll talk a bit more about it in a sec. Waiting on is just stuff that you have to get done, but you're waiting for someone else to do something. Like you made a phone call, supplier's got to get back to you. That kind of thing, that kind of goes in your waiting on. And then done, right? That's all the things that you've completed. And that's the area in which we can drive some learning from later. The other thing, and I'm glad to hear a lot of this already mentioned today, have a purpose to your board, to your visual management system. I have people set a goal every week, something they want to improve on. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, a lot of little improvements add up to something massive. So in the first week, primarily, you're trying to see everything, right? Pull off the blinders. So we're going to set a goal to see everything. You want to get everything on that board. And by everything, I mean, like, I have a home board, I have a professional work board. I don't put all of those together. But I need to know what's going on before I can start to make change, right? And you'll be surprised by what you discover. And when you do this, it's going to feel painful. That's a good pain, right? Like when you go to the the gym for the first time after a while and you discover muscles you didn't know you had. You need to go through that same kind of pain when you're getting stuff on the board, right? So set a goal each week, and then you'll adjust your board to help you get feedback on that goal. The other thing is you're trying to integrate new habits, new ways of doing things. So I have people put a space on their board, and again, this can be digital or physical. A lot of the photos you're seeing are physical, because I much prefer if you have the space, like a wall space, whatever, to do physical, it's way better. You can't hide it in a browser tab, right? It's really big, it's in your face. These are good things. But to have an area of your board that shows the daily habits you're trying to improve. And what we're doing here is not just checking them off, but annotating behavior. So if I'm, in this case, say trying to do daily planning, I can check off the days that worked, but I might also write down why it worked, or maybe why it didn't work. Again, looking for patterns, because I'm trying to find the right, again, we're trying to learn as quickly as possible the path to success. What's going to enable me to do this right behavior, right? Whether it's day planning or running 3 days a week, whatever it is. I'm going to try running in the evening, in the morning. Let's see what's going to work. And then reflecting. Reflecting is so important. We can get so caught up in just doing, and we miss out on the thing that allows us to go that 2 to 4 times faster on the right stuff, right? So to have time once a week, or whatever your pattern is, to just ask questions like this, or whatever it's related to your goal, and to use your board to give you valuable feedback. There's a lot of data in there that you can mine, that you can use.
What do you mean by surprising?
So the question was, what do I mean by surprising? So you may just discover a pattern or a trend, or maybe you discovered that something you thought would go well didn't go well. I don't know. Again, they're open-ended questions to help you look at your work in a different way. And it's not that you have to use those 4 questions all the time. I don't. But it's a good place to start. After a while, you'll come up with your own questions, and they'll relate to whatever your improvement goal is, right? A healthy system will keep changing, just like you change. It's a reflection of who you are and what matters to you. The last step, does anyone ever deal with rush hour traffic and wonder why they call it rush? Because nothing's moving. So here's the key thing. That highway is capable. I lived in Bangladesh for 2.5 years, so I can relate to this photo a lot, the baby taxis and whatnot. So we can fit that many things on the highway, but nothing's moving when we have that much stuff. Same is true for a team, for an individual, for an organization. If they're not paying attention to the cars that they have on their highway, it can turn out to be like this, and nothing moves. So the value of a visual system is we can see clearly how many cars are on that highway, and we can run experiments to discover what is our optimal flow, right? Because that's what we want in the end. We want flow. We're not looking for capacity. This is capacity, right? We can fit that many in it. We want flow. How do we get things moving, all right? So a visual system will help us to see that. And in particular, it's that doing column, right? Those are the cars we're talking about. And with teams, we get a lot more in depth around measuring and stuff that you don't have to do on a personal level. But we can drive a lot of key insights. If we focus on this will drive massive amounts of productivity improvement. This will get you 20 to 30% time back to do other things. It's huge. So we do things like this. So in this case, I was working with a manager of a small company. She had a lot of health issues at the time. So her time was like uber super precious. She may only have like an hour or 2 a day for months. And so what we did was we put what we call work in process limits, or WIP limits, on her board. Just little numbers that kind of say, you know what, don't put more than these number of items in these spaces. And so we had limits on how many things she planned to do in the day, how many things were in progress, how many things she could be waiting on. And then we also put in stuff in her done column so that she couldn't do too many of one thing. She had to focus on 3 areas. If she reached her limit, say in marketing, well, then she needed to switch to sales or strategy. And it's not like someone's going to come out and slap her in the face if she didn't, right? But it's fascinating. When we set this up, immediately her brain just kind of switched, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, all right, I'm just going to follow this plan. So it kind of tricked her brain into helping her do what she really wanted to do, right? Very powerful. So again, the 5 steps. Start with a simple, proven workflow. It works. It really does, right? You can make it more elaborate from there. Set improvement goals. I like a weekly basis. Your first one's going to be just to get everything on your board, create awareness, track daily habits, right? The things you're trying to change, uncover what's going to help make them stick, reflect on your work, right? That's where you really drive the improvement. And limit your work in progress, right? Don't get too many cars on your highway. So to come back to where I'm at right now with ASM, so as I said, our first board was that simple type, and we found after a while that wasn't enough. It wasn't giving us enough visibility. We were kind of, too many shiny objects were getting into the mix, weren't quite focusing enough. And I'm working with a business partner who actually didn't even know that well. It was more like, ASM is here. Wow, how the hell am I going to get this done? And I found this guy who I sort of knew, but he had a lot of time. So one of the things that we're trying to do is figure out, is this even going to work as a business partnership? So some things that we're doing, in our done column, we're trying to measure what is our throughput every week? How many cards are we getting done? So as we start to look forward into the future and plan out stuff, we know what we're capable of, at least in our current configuration. But also, who's doing what? So we'll track what I'm doing, what he's doing, what we're doing together. Again, not to judge or criticize, but to make that visible, right? So we can have conversations about it, make sense on it. Because we're also trying to build some trust and see what we bring into the relationship. Who's capable of what? And it's been really, really helpful. Especially when you try to have conversations around profits and contributions. Instead of getting subjectivity, instead of it being very subjective and emotional, we've got real data to work with. So for example, we had a week where we counted up the cards and he didn't have one card done by himself in a whole week. And he was shocked. It's like, I'm busting my ass. Why is this? And so rather than kind of getting into a blame session, we use it as an opportunity to figure out what's getting in his way, right? How can we help him succeed? How can we succeed? And so we had some conversations around that, and then the cool thing was, then I came here the next day. In the last 2 days, he's like kicking butt. He's like done 6 or 7 cards. We got a promotion just about to go out. He's done a press release. He's done a whole bunch of stuff. So that reflection, gathering that data, made a huge difference in his contribution, right? Very powerful. We also, right now, are doing things like those yellow cards are our goals, a new thing that we just added. So earlier, again, about having concrete goals. We look at goals for the week, we look at goals for the month, and eventually we'll look longer term. But that's where we are right now. Again, drives clarity. So we got things like, we want to complete Module 5 by the end of this month. We want to have $1,000 in sales for our first month. They just got FBA last week. So we've got that right in our system of doing. It's there. It's in our face. We can see that all the time, be reminded of what's important to us right now, right? And make sure that our tasks are aligned to that. And then we've got different colors that just represent different categories of things. Things like marketing or learning the ASM stuff or the operations and stuff like that. Because again, we want to see how we're allocating our time across these different things. And then lastly, we use, one thing I didn't mention earlier is you can also use vertical prioritization, right? So the things that are most important are at the top, and then things below it are less important. So the idea here is there's Post-its everywhere, in this case, virtual cards. But I want to be able to go in here and immediately know what I need to be paying attention to. I don't want to waste time looking at a to-do list of 30 things and figure out, what am I supposed to do next? It's very simple. It's a right to left scan. Anything that's in doing, I got to get to done before I start something else, right? In most cases. Because I want to keep that traffic down. So boom, I've got 3 or 4 things I need to be thinking about. As soon as those cars are off the highway, I have a slot open for something else. So, some people comment on how this looked like really overwhelming and stuff. It's actually not, because I'm not paying attention to all the cards all the time. Then we go to do our weekly planning, right? I've got my set of cards that are in the month column. Slide them over. As I create open slots, then I can move things into the month slot. And again, this sense of flow, right? Seeing cards moving across. And that's the other thing about the flow bit and seeing the cards moving. It actually feels really good. You can see the progress, right? You ever feel like sometimes you're doing lots of stuff, but you ever feel like you can celebrate, or you kind of lose the celebration? So what I find happens a lot when people use these systems is they're seeing the cards moving, they're getting to done. That feels great. You're seeing these cards pile up and done. It's tangible, right? So much of our work is intangible, especially if you're dealing with like a physical system. I can see I'm already, halfway through my session here, right? I can see what I've accomplished, and so can anyone else. Again, really powerful in an environment where you're a team or an organization. Everyone else knows exactly what your reality is, right? What you've done, what's on your plate. So someone comes along and says, can you do that 10-minute job? Because for them it's 10 minutes, but for you it's like the 50th 10-minute job on your list with all the other things, and you're thinking, jerk, does he have any idea what's going on in my world? Well, he doesn't. Unless you've got something like this where you can have an informed conversation. And I see this happen all the time. Now, there's lots of other things I'm not going to be able to cover so much today, but you've really got 80% of the good stuff. As you want to get deeper, we can look into designing your systems to deal with repetitive work, to deal with more project-based stuff. Now, again, you just saw an example of a project for ASM, but you can incorporate project and non-project things. How to minimize interruptions. I brought up the topic, but I haven't really given a lot of strategies. That's a whole other topic. There's something called the Pomodoro technique, which is quite popular around minimizing interruptions, so I invite you to Google that. Again, you can incorporate all of these things into one board for total visibility. There's more in-depth prioritization techniques, depending on, again, the complexity of your situation. Teams will have far more complex systems often than individuals will. And then lastly, ways to find balance, right? And I showed a few examples of that earlier, but there's lots of different ways that you can try to go about doing that. So I hope what you can see here is you kind of got like this canvas in these tools. You've got lots you can do with it. You can shape it, make it in what you want. You like heart Post-its for the things that you really want to do? Get some heart Post-its, right? Make it your own. Be creative. Put yourself into it. You will enjoy interacting with that system that much more because it's yours, you own it, you've made it into something that reflects who you are. That's what's exciting about it. That's why I love doing what I do, because every time I help set up a new board, I learn something about someone else. It's telling their story. So I've shown you kind of the personal small team stuff. If you're one of these people that's scaling up your business, you've got 10, 12, 20, 50 people, Jason, others, you can do stuff like this, right, where you've got team boards, you've got project boards, you've got a portfolio, because you want to manage the flow of stuff at all those levels. You want visibility at all those levels as well. And I've done this kind of stuff in organizations so that the right people have the right level of visibility, right? And that we can be very proactive and make adjustments quickly, because these tools are very adaptable. You see the mentioned LeanKit here. I use LeanKit a lot. There's tons of tools out there, and I'm happy to share links to a bunch of different ones. But I really come back to LeanKit time and time again. It's just kind of the Swiss Army knife of tools online. Okay, so at the beginning, I invited you to write down 3 topics. What I want you to do now is look at those 3 topics, circle the ones that you feel we've covered, and notice what's missing. Because there'll be a bit of a Q&A in a moment. I want to try to cover, as best as I can, the things that I haven't gotten to today. Okay. Okay. Nope. Okay. So I hope this doesn't seem too complicated. I've given this presentation many times. I was at a hospital recently. Give an hour presentation, give them a handout. Within a few days, they were showing me photos of boards all over the place. So it's not hard. It's easy to do. So who feels ready to try this? Who's ready to kick up their game? Who's ready to create more space for themselves? I invite you to stand up if you're ready to do that. Cacao! All right, cool, awesome. So now it's your turn. So I've given you enough to get started. You can go to this link here where you can download a handout. There's also some other information, some other tips that you can use. It's really all you need to get started. Of course, I'm in the Facebook group, so I'm happy to chat with you that way, or you can reach me by email. I'm really excited to do whatever I can to help you be successful, right? You can also get the book that started this whole revolution. It's called Personal Kanban by Jim Benson and Tony Ann DeMaria Barry. I actually have a copy with me if you'd like to just kind of have a sneak peek at it and see what you think. Great book to tell you about the why of this stuff, right? If you're one of these people that looks to understand the brain science principles of why this works so well, great, great read. So what I really desire for all of you is to help you see more clearly what's going on in your life so that you can shift to more of the higher value things that matter to you, right? And to let go of the stuff that doesn't, right? To shift into those things that are going to help you create the life that you want. And I really believe you need a system that helps you learn how to do that better. Not just get things done, but to do the right things. And this is one of the few systems I know that can do that, and it's the one I know that does it the best. And I've tried a lot. This is my daughter. Today's my birthday, actually. So I'm kind of missing them right now a little bit. I have a daughter and two twin boys, Graham and David. But I can't think of a better way to celebrate my birthday than to give you this gift. A gift that I received that has changed my life, that has made my marriage better, that has helped me give so much and to earn a living. So I invite you, I urge you to give this a shot, and if you get benefit, to share that benefit with others as well. Because ultimately, we need not to ask what the world needs. We need to ask what makes you come alive, and go do that. Because if we're going to change this world into a place that we truly want to live in, we need people who truly come alive. And I feel like in this room, we have people who are coming alive. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Awesome. So we got 10 minutes here. We're going to take some question and answer. Again, I have a really big request because I did have quite a few people that were in the back of the room when we do the Q&A. They say they can never hear the questions. So if you could really speak clearly and loud in the mic, I would appreciate it. We got 10 minutes, so any questions you want to come up, come up.
So maybe everybody can come together with me and start singing Happy Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jerry. Happy birthday to you. Wow. Is that good?
That's great.
My question is, have you created this or used this technique with different cultures? And we're looking at using people in the Philippines or whatever. Have you tried it? Do you know of people who've done it? And what's the success rate?
So Jim Benson himself, who I know very well, he's traveled all around the world working. He's worked a lot in Asia, for instance. So the same principles apply, and that's like my background's in software and IT, and I've kind of broken out of just that industry mold, and I've discovered it's applicable to anything, because it's about managing stuff, knowledge, right? And so yeah, I think it would work very well.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Over here, Jerry.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Any resources, or do you have any specific suggestions on how to manage priorities and also distractions?
So again, the first step really is just finding out what's going on, right? So first become aware of what you are actually doing, right? And then in terms of priorities, again, you know what's most important to you, right? So what we're trying to do is to visualize that so that you focus on what's most important. So just doing those simple things like having a today column and having options. Sometimes I have to break options into different buckets and so on. In the book, they talk about some different things like priority filters and so on. But really, in the end, I find as far as priorities go, if you're visualizing what's important to you, if you're using like a vertical placement, if you're using like options today, doing, done, and you're evaluating what you've done regularly to see, am I creating value? Am I not? Doing all of those things will massively help you with doing the right things that matter. As far as managing interruptions go, again, I'm a big thing about discovery, a big thing about learning. So if you have problems with certain kinds of interruptions, or you're just even curious, what kind of interruptions am I having? That happens a lot when I'm in organizations. We'll just track for a week what interruptions are coming at me, and then use that data, find the patterns, come up with some experiments to change that, and then evaluate again in another week. So get used to this idea of experimenting, learning, rapid experimentation to get quick feedback, whether it's to minimize interruptions or anything else.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Jerry. Thank you so much for the valuable content. I think I was lost the first half, and then the second half, there's a profound clarity that came out from seeing some of your examples. My question is in regards to, up on the stage, you've got Post-it notes posted up versus using a digital system. A lot of us, obviously, we outsource talent, project management overseas. We have to be able to share that. But there's got to be something that's valuable, being able to write that down as well. What is your preference, and how do you coordinate between the two realms, if you will?
Great question. So, as always, there's no one right answer. But typically, if you're dealing with a distributed team, you're pretty much going to go digital, right? But there is tremendous value, particularly in starting with physical if you can, because it's easy to play with, right? I don't have to figure out a tool. Absolutely. I don't have to fight with a tool. I can move Post-its around. I can draw lines, right? I can do whatever I want. I've often just created them on walls with painter's tape, right? And every week, like after a couple of weeks, things are going to kind of move around, and the dust will kind of settle, and then I'll have a system that'll work for a little while. So wherever you can, yeah, do use physical. Sometimes you can take a photo of your board, right, and send it to other people. That's one way to do it, to sort of manage the digital or physical divide. Or you've got some overhead. You might duplicate some things in the physical. Again, experiment with what works for you, because, yeah, again, it's about getting the most value, right? And you may not know at first, but there'll definitely be a digital component involved there. But I'm a big fan of physical, absolutely. I have teams that are doing really complicated work, right? Like building software for the Olympics and stuff, and they've got Post-its on a wall. So we may love our gadgets and our toys, right? Technology-wise, but when it comes back to effectiveness, nothing beats these guys. And one of these days I'm going to get stock in 3M, because all the Post-its that people go through that I help with.
And another valuable resource for you and everyone else in the room is a book called Game Storming. It's on Amazon. It's also kind of tied in with that.
Okay.
Sherry McMahon from Las Vegas.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you. How do you approach getting yourself to do those things that you do avoid?
Great question. So you may or may not understand why you're avoiding them. So for me, the first thing is I'm going on a journey to discover, right? Why am I avoiding these things? So and often it's for a variety of reasons. Either one, I don't have the skills to do it, so I'm running away from it. Number two, lower priority things are getting in my way. Number three, it's too big, so it feels overwhelming. I need to break it down. So there's a variety of reasons why you may be avoiding something. So try to dig into It may be a certain kind of thing, right? It may not just be one task. It may be a bunch of related tasks. I keep avoiding those things, whether it's finances or something.
Billing.
Billing, yeah. So what is for you? Why is billing so hard?
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great thing. So when we're doing that, what's satisfying, not satisfying. If there's things that you don't enjoy doing, you shouldn't be doing them, or find a way that you can enjoy them. Right? Perfect opportunity to delegate to someone else. Find someone who can do your billing for you. You know. Again, that's the value of the reflection. Right? Well, I'm avoiding these things. Why am I avoiding them? Get clear on that. That gives you an idea of what experiment you want to run to try to make it better.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tamar Goldstein from Sydney, Australia.
Welcome.
Hi, I just thought I'd share with you, it's my birthday too.
Woo! Awesome. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Happy mutual birthdays.
Fantastic.
I suppose my question was kind of related to the last one, but maybe I'll rephrase it a different way. I have a lot of theory in my head. I learn, I absorb a ton of theory, but quite often when I get to applying it, I get a small way through it, and then I have something block the rest of it. Maybe I have some sort of something doesn't work out quite right, but it's an ongoing issue for me, and I believe it is for other people too. How to overcome the blocks that you have when you've just started something and you find it, you've got the theory in your head, but it's not quite gelling.
Okay. So I'm a big fan of just getting started, right? So sometimes we can just think about what's that one simple thing, right, that I can do to get some momentum. And then as we start to get into it, it can become a bit clearer what's the next thing to do, right? And then, I'm not sure if I'm quite answering your question, because you're talking about you get started on something
Yeah,
and then
I get started on something, but I don't finish it because I come up against some sort of block or roadblock, either a technical one or a...
Yeah, so my suggestion there is you probably need to gather some data because it's not clear to you. So again, if you're doing stuff and you've got everything visualized, you may start to notice certain patterns, certain kind of blockers for you, right? And then with that information, you can then try to do something with it. Try to run some experiments and see, talk to someone, show other people, right? Because if you've got this visual map, maybe you're stuck, maybe there's someone else who can help you. If you've got your Kanban, everyone else can see that too and in an instant know what's going on. Maybe someone else has an insight who could help you. Yeah. So I don't have no direct, I don't know what your specific solution is, but what I'm trying to do is show you ways that you can try to find the solution with a system like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good luck.
My name is Carolyn, and
Hi, Carol.
I am an ex-Louisiana resident now living in Mexico. I actually have two things I wanted to share and then get your comments. And they really go back to kind of what she was saying. How do I get started? What do I do first? How do I make myself get started? One of them is actually a technique I read in a book called Eat That Frog.
Right.
Don't know if you're all familiar with it, but it's you take the most disgusting, undesirable thing you don't want to do today, and that becomes your first thing to do. And the idea of why it's a frog is because if you had to eat a frog, and you knew you had to do it sometime today, that would prey on your mind all day. Just eat it, get it over with, move on.
Sure.
The other thing is, in my profession, things can become extremely complicated. And when you first walk in for the day, you don't know how you're going to handle it. I'm a physician. I see a lot of emergency patients. Where do you start? You break it down into the priority. What do I have to do first? In my case, they have to be breathing. In our job, you can come up with your priorities, break it down to a task, one at a time, and then do them.
Sure.
I'd appreciate your comments.
Well, what I would say is there's lots of different methods and approaches out there. I'm familiar with Eat That Frog. So, and that's the thing with a system like this, is you can incorporate a lot of these different approaches into this type of visual system. It's very malleable, right? If you're a getting things done fan, I have helped lots of people with getting things done. Use this to reduce some of the overhead of getting things done. So you can try different experiments. If you have Eat That Frog, sure, make sure that first post in your today column is that frog, right? Again, it's all about discovering what's going to work for you. And what works for you today might not work for you 6 months from now. Get used to adapting, changing. The world is always changing around you. Your context is changing. So experiment, learn, accelerate.
Yeah, we're actually out of time, so we have quite a bit. First of all, thanks, Jerry.
Okay.
That was awesome, buddy.
All right.
Good job, man.
Pleasure to be here. Okay, thanks, Matt.